Kathy Contis, 512 39th Street. I'm sorry I couldn't make the previous meeting, so I'm sorry if I'm going to be asking questions and saying things that were already taken care of, but I just have a couple of things I'd like to know. According to the law in 2010, in reference to the 2% cap, it says that if you're going to raise above the 2% cap, it's supposed to go as a public question to the voters. And each time we've done it, we haven't done that. How come?
We were given a waiver, right, Mr. Campbell? You want to step forward?
That's not true.
Trish, you want to?
There's, within the budget document, there is a calculation of how the tax levy cap is calculated. And there are certain exclusions to the tax levy cap
Outside.
that allow municipalities to exceed the 2% cap.
Which are?
They're listed right in the budget document.
I don't have a copy of the budget, so I don't know.
All right. Well, there's,
All I know is I saw a notice that you're raising it 3.5. The law says you have to have it as a public question for the voters to vote on,
okay.
and that's my question. How come?
Okay. If I may, I'll just
Sure.
read through this. Last year's tax levy was $58,628,000. The 2% increase was $1,172,000. That brings the 2% levy to $59,800,000. There are exclusions. The Division of Local Government Services puts out a workbook. We enter all our data into there. There are calculated exclusions. This year there's an exclusion for health insurance, which is $1.2 million. There's an exclusion for $258,000 related to pension obligations. That brings the adjusted levy to $61,296,000. Then there are additional adjustments to the levy for the new rateable base, and there's also we have tax levy banked from last year that we didn't use.
Okay, now over here this says 2%.
Right.
Last year we were raised 4.5.
Well, there were exclusions to the levy.
Those
last year.
exclusions were in. So this never has to go to the voters. It just gets
No,
done.
These are
to us.
allowable exclusions.
All right, no, I just want to understand it, because I have a
Yes.
copy of the law, and the law tells me something different than, you know, what I see, and I'm sure a lot of other people don't
The allowable
understand.
exclusions were in the legislation.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to ask you was,
But you can say standing. You can say standing over.
I mean, this is a done deal, the 3.5, but are we going to come back and do another 1% like we did last year after the fact, or is this going to?
Mr. Campbell?
It's not a done deal. We have an application pending with the state. We've applied for transitional aid, and we're hoping to reduce the increase in the tax levy.
From the 3.5?
Right.
Because last year it went back after the fact and there was another 1% added onto it. I don't have the article with me, but I have it.
Right.
Okay, now, in reference to the costs that do the taxes, what is the status, Brian, with all the exempt property we had from that SCC that cleaned up 11?
The properties like on 5th and
Yeah,
South.
there's a lot of property there. That's not, we're not getting taxes paid.
We've
We're
spoken to
picking
them.
up the balance.
We've spoken to them several times, Kathy, but the state still seems to feel that they're going to hold the property and possibly in the future build a school on
The
the
state's gonna
site.
build something?
The state owns the property, they're not our properties, they're owned by school construction.
And how did that one little house get built?
They
That
allowed it.
three-story?
They allowed it. We have a letter from the Attorney General's office on it. They allowed that to happen. We have numerous letters back and forth with the state on that, saying, you know, this person's in for to build on the property, and they said that basically they wrote us a letter back saying that person is allowed to build on the property. He owns that piece of property, he can build on the property, we'll deal with it at a later date. I personally...
Right, but he had gotten the approval, and I was at the Board of Adjustment when he got it.
Right, let me just finish now. I personally don't see the state building on that property the way things look right now. I don't. I mean, that could change though. Maybe they come up with something different, but I don't see it happening.
But in the meantime, wouldn't it behoove them to let us take it back and have it be sold and developed and people pay taxes?
Absolutely. And we were getting
I
that.
mean,
down
in the
there.
meanwhile, we're on welfare from the state, for
Hey,
God's sake.
hey.
It'd be good for them, they could knock down what they have to give us.
I wouldn't call it welfare from the state. Union City's always received municipal aid. We're always going to have to receive municipal aid, going back to the days when Bill Musto was the mayor. Bob Menendez, I think, even got more state aid than I did at one point.
Right. The other thing was, I have an article, I had read something online where you had said about I don't know, when talking to someone at the meeting that I couldn't make, that you weren't aware exactly of what the percentage had been last year. I have a copy of the January 2012 article from Star Ledger. And in your interview, you said that the taxes had been increased 4.5%. But also, they had a chart, and Brian, that shows that in 10 years, so I guess from 2001 to 2011, being this was January, they couldn't be talking about 2012, our taxes went up 47%.
Kathy, a
Municipal.
major part of your tax increases are from North Hudson Regional Fire and Rescue and county taxes.
County taxes went up 30.
Yeah, county
Ours
taxes.
went up 47.
County taxes just went up again, and the fire department just went up again almost $1 million.
Well,
Each.
I don't know, if you'd like to pass.
I don't need it, I have a copy of it. Keep it.
All right, last question. Again, tax related. Who pays for all this free stuff?
What free stuff?
Free parties, free food, free transportation from 9 or 10 different locations, you know, stuff like that. Is that the city paying for that?
I don't know what free stuff you mean, I don't know exactly what you mean.
Well, whenever, like, you have a flyer like this, and it goes out, we get multiple ones, and it's free entertainment, free food, free pickups, and it gives like 9 or 10 different locations with their
It's all part of,
pickup to come to the, whatever the
you mean
event is.
events to bring senior citizens to events?
Well, it's not only those, I mean, there's tons of events.
I mean, cultural events in the city and senior events in the city,
Whatever they are,
right?
I mean, don't we have to cut that?
No, these people are on regular time, and they're driving the van, they'd be working, whether they're working at that time picking up our residents, or working at a different time, they're on regular time, there's no overtime involved.
Oh, all
I'm
right,
proud
well,
of the
that's what I'm
fact-
asking, because it's nighttime that this stuff.
No,
goes
no, and
on.
I'm proud of the fact, I'm really proud of the fact that we've cut the payroll by hundreds in the city. I came in with a very bloated payroll.
All
You
right,
know, we had
that's-
9 captains, and nobody worked at night.
I mean,
Down
I'm
at
just
3.
hoping you guys are really like trying to figure out how
Oh, we're
to
doing
cut
everything we
this
can,
stuff.
Kathy.
Because you always say it's a poor community, blue collar,
Absolutely.
this and that. I mean, people are getting killed here, they're all gonna move out of here, they can really gonna have
Taxes are a problem throughout New Jersey, Kathy, they definitely are. They definitely are.
Sure.
Thank God, though, our city's moving forward. I mean, your block itself has just been recently repaved, new sidewalks, beautiful trees.
Yeah,
With
now we can
documentary
keep
on
the
there, remember?
skateboarders from breaking the sidewalk
Oh,
with their
skateboards,
skateboards, that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you.
very much.
All right, Ernest, 1006 Palisade Avenue. I have a lot of questions about budget. First of all, I'll start with this, Kathy, these caps. There's a 2.5% cap on expenditures, there's a 2% tax levy. But I understand the calculations in here on 3B and 3B1. Basically, on the expenditure part, the cap is really $2.5 million for fiscal 13. In other words, it's the 2.5, that's $1.8 million, and then we have some additions, the biggest one of which seems to be new radicals that adds 700,000. So we have roughly $2.5 million cap, right? Right. Okay, if we go to the tax levy expenditure, it's a 2% increase, but there are also, and that's $1.2 million. But then we have a lot of other excludables like the health increase. And again, new radicals. So it looks like the increase in permitted by the tax, the 2% tax levy increase is $3 million. Is that roughly the number?
Roughly, yes.
Okay. Now, one of the questions I have, last Wednesday, we passed this ordinance which said we could hike the budget by, for fiscal year 2012, from 2.5% to 3.5%. And basically, we had a bank or a reserve fund that we could draw on in the next 2 years of $731,000. Now, there's a number on 3B1, which is $100,000, which says 2012 cap bank utilized in fiscal 2013. Is that 100,000 part of the 731,000?
The ordinance that was passed last week does not allow us to increase spending. It's it refers to the sheet 3BI. It's an operating cap. Our expenses are allowed to go up a certain percentage each year. The state establishes that percentage is based on the consumer rate index. This year, they established it to be 2.5%. Any municipality can increase that number to 3.5%. Now, this is just on operating expenses. And we've done it only just in case there's something we've left out of the budget that needs to go in at a later point. In case we need it within the next 2 years, we're able to bank it.
Okay,
As-
then my question is, where is the 731 in here, if at all?
It wasn't money added to the budget. This is the number right there, 715,000, COLA rate ordinance. That was the additional amount added. And if you look at this number, our operating expenses on sheet 19 are $3 billion below what we're allowed to go up to.
Okay, you're back on 3B. There's a figure of 715,000 and change. I thought that, it says assessed valuation of new construction. I thought that was,
It's the line below, the COLA rate ordinance.
I see. Okay, so that's where the 731,000 ends up. Is what you've done.
Right, it's basically in a calculation. There's no additions to the budget.
Okay, that's good. Okay. I'll go through these quickly, but I had a lot of, page 4A, sure, sheet 4A. This is payment in lieu of taxes. Union Plaza, we're expecting $230,000 this year. Now, 6 weeks ago, we passed an ordinance extending, apparently that pilot was about to run out this year, and we extended it to 2015, because that was when the mortgage was going to expire.
Yeah, 15.
Okay, my question is, if we just had allowed it to expire, what would we see in way of taxes instead of 230,000? Do we know? Do we know what?
I think Salvan Corsi was the one that spoke to us on this and felt it was beneficial. He's the tax assessor, as I'm sure you know, Larry. He said it was beneficial to Union City to keep this agreement, that we would actually reap more under the agreement that we had than allowing it to expire. But I can get, he's actually in California right now.
He's a smart guy.
So he's in California, so when he's back, he'll be more than happy. I could have him discuss it with you. I'll tell him to give you a call.
Page, sheet 5, the item in there, special municipal, $10.2 million. Do we have that $10 million locked up this year?
We're still working with, that's what basically they told us you could expect to receive. But we're still working on seeing if there's any additional aid. It's being reviewed by DCA and by local government services. We're confident in that number, hoping for more.
No. Is there any risk that they ever cut us off from this money?
You always have a risk that you could get cut, but I don't see that happening. I wouldn't see it happening to any municipality, cold turkey such as that. They try to wean you off it if they possibly can, except for circumstances.
9.1. There's an item in here, and then in the expenditure section, there was an identical contra item. Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, $2,875,000. We take it in, we send it out. What is that all about?
What is this money being used for?
Yeah.
It's being used for streets and roadways.
But we have an expenditure item back to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey in the same amount.
It's a grant. Whenever you get a grant, you show it as revenue and you show it as an appropriation. You show the money coming in and you're showing it in the area that you're going to use it. The expense category, which is for roads and improvements.
Looked to me like a in and out, the same number.
You'll see that for every grant in this budget.
It's the same on all the grants.
Okay, I noticed in 2012, we got the 214, I'm on sheet 10, sorry. We got $214,000 from FEMA. With Sandy, don't we rate a few bucks this year too?
We met with them recently, in fact, last Sunday, they contacted me, we met actually on Sunday. And there's still an assessment going on. In fact, we're going to be holding a seminar and stuff like that in the city here, just for residents also who have claims. There's several residents who have claims, not several, more than several, but there's residents who have claims. But the city is assessing right now all parks and stuff like that. Some of the individual claims, though, you can't get more than $31,000 on a claim. So the insurance company always has to kick in. But we contacted FEMA, met with FEMA last Sunday,
But
but also the insurance.
But the personal claims wouldn't come through the city's books.
No, not at all, no. We're just doing that for convenience, as many municipalities are doing right now.
Right, okay.
It makes it easier for FEMA, I think, coming into one room and trying to maybe speak to people about what the claims could be, and that's why we're doing that.
Okay. Question on, while we're on sheet 10, there's an item at the bottom that showed that we budgeted, in 2012, we budgeted and received $1.3 million, but there's no equivalent budget number in 2013. Did UEZ cut us off or something?
UEZ basically is coming to an end. We absorbed some of the street cleaning operation under the DPW. They're actually the ones that are doing that right now.
UEZ is dead or dying or gone?
For the most part. There's still some aspects that will exist under UEZ, not like it once was.
Will the 3% go away? Or is that 3% going away?
We're hoping it doesn't. We're working on, in fact, I'm working with another senator right now on legislation to keep the program alive in some form going forward. Union City actually had a pretty decent UEZ program going. And we'd like to see that continue in some aspect. Maybe not exactly what we had, and like many municipalities had in New Jersey, but we'd like to see something continue. But what we provided before, such as the street cleaning operation and stuff like that, still continues as normal.
But as part of DPW funded by the budget rather than
Exactly,
as a separate.
exactly, going forward.
Okay. Just a question that I had about the I happen to notice, since I deal with them all the time, that the zoning board of adjustment was included in the Department of Public Works budget, but the planning board was included in public affairs. Is there any reason for that? I mean,
I think they were just organized that way under the form of government when reorganization was done. I don't even know if it was done by us. I think it may have been done way back. I can't be certain on that, though. Yeah.
it's small numbers,
Right.
just curiosity. On page, sheet 15, a big item, which is employee group health. It's $17 million. Does that include for retirees as well as active employees?
Yes.
What's the breakdown between retired and active?
We're one of the probably, and Rich, you might have an exact number on it, I don't. We're probably one of the few municipalities right now in the state that will exceed the number, probably within the next couple of years, of having more retirees getting benefit than active employees.
Legacy costs will be with us forever. Okay. Okay. Sheet 15A. Police department, salaries and wages. The budgeted number for 2013 is about 250,000 less than the actual number in 2012. Given the, the steps and the hikes and the whatever, that's kind of an extraordinary development. Are we dropping the numbers in the police department that quick?
We've dropped the number of police officers. We're actively hiring probably in the range of about 15 to 20. Obviously, they come in at a much lower salary. Some of them will come under grants, some won't. But the numbers have dropped drastically from retirements. From all the different pieces of legislation that have been signed into law, many police officers, public employees have retired. In the police department specifically, we've lost a lot.
Question on, it looked to me like a in and out, the same number.
You'll see that for every grant in this budget.
It's the same among the grants.
Okay. I noticed in 2012, we got the 214, I'm on sheet 10, sorry. We got $214,000 from FEMA. With Sandy, don't we rate a few bucks this year too?
We met with them recently. In fact, last Sunday, they contacted me. We met actually on Sunday. There's still an assessment going on. In fact, we're going to be holding a seminar and stuff like that in the city here, just for residents also who have claims. There's several residents who have claims, not several, more than several, but there's residents who have claims. But the city is assessing right now our parks and stuff like that. Some of the individual claims, though, you can't get more than $31,000 on a claim. So the insurance company always has to kick in. But we've contacted FEMA, met with FEMA last Sunday, but also the insurance.
But the personal claims wouldn't come through the city's books?
No, not at all, no. We're just doing that for convenience, as many municipalities are doing right now.
Right, okay.
It makes it easier for FEMA, I think, coming into one room and trying to maybe speak to people about what the claims could be, and that's why we're doing that.
Okay. Question on, while we're on sheet 10, there's an item at the bottom that showed that we budgeted, in 2012, we budgeted and received $1.3 million, but there's no equivalent budget number in 2013. Did UEZ cut us off or something?
UEZ basically is coming to an end. We absorbed some of the street cleaning operation under the DPW. They're actually the ones that are doing that right now.
UEZ is dead or dying or gone?
For the most part. There's still some aspects that will exist under UEZ, not like it once was.
Will the 3% go away? Or is that 3% going away?
We're hoping it doesn't. We're working on, in fact, I'm working with another senator right now on legislation to keep the program alive in some form going forward. Union City actually had a pretty decent UEZ program going. And we'd like to see that continue in some aspect. Maybe not exactly what we had, and like many municipalities had in New Jersey, but we'd like to see something continue. But what we provided before, such as the street cleaning operation and stuff like that, still continues as normal.
But as part of DPW funded by the budget rather than...
Exactly, exactly, going forward.
Okay. Just a question that I had about the I happen to notice, since I deal with them all the time, that the zoning board of adjustment was included in the Department of Public Works budget, but the planning board was included in public affairs. Is there any reason for that? I mean,
I think they were just organized that way under the form of government when the reorganization was done.
The last time we did it.
I don't even know if it was done by us. I think it may have been done way back. I can't be certain on that, though. Yeah.
it's small numbers,
Right.
just curiosity. On page, sheet 15, a big item, which is employee group health. It's $17 million. Does that include for retirees as well as active employees?
Yes.
What's the breakdown between retired and active?
We're one of the probably, and Rich, you might have an exact number on it, I don't. We're probably one of the few municipalities right now in the state that will exceed the number, probably within the next couple of years, of having more retirees getting benefit than active employees.
legacy costs will be with us forever, okay. Okay. Sheet 15A. Police department, salaries and wages. The budgeted number for 2013 is about 250,000 less than the actual number in 2012. Given the steps and the hikes and the whatever, that's kind of an extraordinary development. Are we dropping the numbers in the police department that quick?
We've dropped the number of police officers. We're actively hiring probably in a range of about 15 to 20. Obviously, they come in at a much lower salary. Some of them will come under grants, some won't. But the numbers have dropped drastically from retirements. From all the different pieces of legislation that have been signed into law, many police officers, public employees have retired. In the police department specifically, we've lost a lot.
Question on 12, $850,000 for salaries for school crossing guards. And then it goes to practically nothing this year with an interlocal agreement. But we're still picking up, it looks to me like, the cost of school crossing guards. I mean, it seems to me that's a function, or a cost and a function that belongs with the Board of Ed, not with the city.
Actually, here in Union City, the school district actually reimburses us for the crossing guards. But typically, it is a municipal expenditure. And here it's kind of unique where the school board does cover that cost.
That's only recent. That's only in the last year, right? In the last year, not that much longer than that. It's something that was recommended also through the local government services, through DCA. We advocated for that for a number of years. Didn't really go too far, and then it was recently picked up because they are crossing children.
Exactly.
The function of a school crossing guard is for children. Also pedestrians and adults also, but for the most part, children. Providing safety.
Yeah. Sheet 17. Street lighting, $1.1 million. Last year we paid $762,000, but we reserved $350,000. It looks like we didn't pay our electric bill. But anyway, $1.1 million. I make a management comment. The illumination in Union City is a lot higher than neighboring towns, most towns. If we illuminated to their level, we'd probably save $500,000. And you know what? That $500,000 is probably best expended
I agree 1,000%.
in terms of crime prevention, crime detection. The total expenses were about a little less than $18 million. We paid $13 million. We reserved $5 million. That we put it in accounts payable, I guess. We didn't pay it. We just accrued the expense, right?
We paid it after the fiscal year ended.
Okay. This year, we're budgeting 18.6 million, which is about a 600,000 increase. Given the way those costs have been going up, is a 600,000 increase, which is about a 4% increase, realistic?
I believe so. I believe they're subject to the tax levy cap as well. So we believe it is.
Okay.
The problem that we have, Larry, is that North Hudson Regional Fire and Rescue budget is probably one of the few in the state of New Jersey that doesn't need approval from DCA. I have legislation right now to make their minutes of their meetings and their budget subject to the approval, just like every municipal budget is in New Jersey, to DCA, and also to give the governor, whoever the governor may be, whether it's this governor or a future governor 20 years from now, give them power over to veto the minutes of the meeting, which is important because there's really no oversight. And that's the problem that you have there. For all I know, it could be supplemented North Bergen's DPW. I don't know, especially with all the things I'm reading in the paper. think that,
That concludes my question. What was your name? Francisco Alduña.
can you just give your address for the record?
4501 Palisade Avenue. I'm the union vice president, sir. I would like to know if the money is there for the increase for the union.
Sir, that's something that we're in negotiations with the union right now.
Yes, sir, but it's 4 years without contract.
Oh, no, I understand that. I'm very eager to settle the contract, believe me.
Yeah, but you didn't say that for 4 years, sir.
Oh,
Every month, next month.
we're right now before mediation, as you know. I don't know if the union filled you in, but we're
That's
actually
not true,
before.
sir,
it right
because I
now.
spoke
Sir,
to-
when I'm speaking, don't interrupt.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
We're in mediation right now.
Yeah. With who, sir?
I'm sorry?
With who?
We're in mediation with your union right now.
What union, sir?
The union's
I spoke with the president today. He don't have any answer.
He may not have an answer, but we're in mediation right
Sir, you
now.
didn't say that every month.
I'm sorry?
You're saying that every month. It's almost 4 years.
I can't tell a mediator when to give his decision.
Sir, do you know Mr. Henry Monca, no? He's making overtime at this time here now? He's getting paid overtime?
I'm sorry?
Henry Monca, he's getting paid overtime to be here now?
You'll have to do an OPA request and see.
All right, sir, because Mr. Rivera, you're the commissioner of PPW, you know? You signed the payroll. You know Mr. Henry Monca making $3,000 overtime every pay in Cali?
Let me tell you something, Mr. Nunez.
Yes.
Mr. Munker is one of the hardest working
I'm not saying
employees.
that.
Sir, don't interrupt. Mr. Munker is one of the hardest working employees in the city of Union City. Okay, well, you were home in your house. Mr. Munker was at DPW, and the hours he donates to the city is just incredible. He's the only one of the only few supervisors in DPW. We went from having assistant superintendents, deputy directors, down to him, Alan Watson, and Kathy, who's not even a supervisor, running the department. I'm very proud of that department. I'm very proud of Mr. Munker, Kathy, Alan Watson, and every employee in that department. I can relate to them very much because I was out there during the storm, working side by side with them.
So I'm not questioning his job, I'm just questioning, he's making $3,000 overtime every pay? Doesn't mean he's working the same hours overtime every pay, sir?
Mr. Munker has the hours that he has. He justifies them. We sign off whatever they may be. You can open
3,000
that
every
also.
pay. Why
Sorry?
every pay is 3,000?
Whatever the hours he submits to the hours he's
3,000 every
working.
day?
That's right.
Every
Whatever,
day?
whatever the hours he submits to the hours he's working, Mr. Nunez.
And you don't know when we're gonna get a contract, sir?
As soon as the mediator gets back to us with a decision.
So when you went down with Mr. Lucente, the mediator said you're the only one who make that decision.
Sir, we went down to DCA. You're obviously not being informed by your own union. That's sad in itself. But let me just say, we went down with a meeting with the State of New Jersey Local Government Services. They're not a mediator, sir.
But that's what you're saying, sir, you're mediation.
Sir, you said we went down with Mr. Lucente. I
Yes.
did not go down with Mr. Lucente. We went down to Trenton, and we met in Trenton with Local Government Services. We didn't meet with a mediator.
That's why you say you're mediation with the president,
We're in mediation right now, not with the president, with the union,
with the union.
to settle the contract. We're very eager to
It's
settle
4
the
years
contract.
already, sir.
I'm sorry?
It's 4 years already.
Sir, I answered the question already.
Every month you tell them next month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
wonderful night, sir.
Same to you, sir.
Next question. Are there any Union City residents who want to speak first before I allow out-of-town residents to speak? No? Okay, so there's no other questions by anyone else? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Dixon. My home address is 1575th Street. It's in North Bergen. My business address is 116 West 23rd Street, New York, New York. Zip code is 10011. I've been a securities and investigative lawyer for 18 years, and I've been retained by an organization known as the Union City Concerned Citizens Group to investigate budgetary matters in several municipalities, including Union City. My work has just begun really today in the wake of a recent meeting, and the analysis will continue, but I wanted to introduce some questions for the record and give everyone an opportunity to make a response. All the talk in Washington now seems to be about the fiscal cliff, but at first glance, Union City appears to have its own fiscal cliff. I see on sheet 11 an amount to be raised for support of the municipal budget to be $63.78 million, an increase over the prior year of more than $3 million, a 5% increase. At first glance, the municipality receiving transitional aid and supposedly under state oversight. Because my question is the issue of the state oversight and Union City's compliance with DCA. Sheet 4 shows that Union City apparently didn't use a surplus in the current budget or in the 2012 budget that just ended. Sheet 5 talks about the transitional aid. It's not what it's called in the sheet, but that's what it is. It's 10.2 mil. I wanted to ask a question about an item on sheet 27, which is what appears to be a sale and lease back of certain city assets in the amount of $882,000. I wanted to ask about the terms of the lease back. In the commercial world, the question we ask as investigators, is this a commercially reasonable arm's length transaction? That's the question I have. Sheet 27.
This is the HCIA lease.
Correct. Hudson County Improvement Authority. Right in the middle of the page. Principal and interest. Principal is $407,000. Interest is
That's when the fire department was regionalized, and the former mayor sold the firehouses. That's where that item came from. That's where it goes back to, prior administration, when the fire department was regionalized. It was a one-shot budget gimmick.
a one-shot budget gimmick. Is there any opportunity in the current economic climate to refinance this debt, get a better interest rate?
I don't believe so, not on the lease, not that I'm aware of. I believe this debt was issued through the HCIA and probably on behalf of the fire department.
If I had my druthers, we wouldn't even have that on the books if I would have been the mayor at that point. I would never regionalize. The budget was $5.7 million at the time. We now pay over $18 million, plus all this on all the leases that were done as a budget gimmick to win an election at that time. It's a good question that you asked, though. I appreciate that.
The next item for discussion concerns an item for interlocal service agreements. The item is referred to on both sheets 7 and 10. This is the interlocal service agreement with the Board of Ed that divulges the following line items. And this all aggregates out to about $2.25 million.
This is on sheet 7?
Sheet 7.
What's your question?
Well, all these items, $300,000 for the lease of the recreation center, solid waste removal has a $360,000 line item. Gasoline expense of $40,000, $100,000 for a pool, $30,000 for a lease of a maintenance facility, almost $600,000 for police services, $830,000 for the school crossing guards that was referenced in a prior question. But Union City.
That's not on sheet 7.
That's on sheet 10, pardon me.
Okay.
But the aggregate amount of $2.258 million, Union City being an average school district, the concern that I have, at least preliminarily, is that average funds are supposed to be used for educational purposes, but it appears that these funds are being allocated as average funds to the school system, and then they're going to offset city expenses, which are non-educational, and whether that's a proper use of average funds.
Is that your question?
That's the question.
That was signed off by the DCA and the Department of Education probably for the last 15-plus years. The reason is the lease of the recreation center is where the children eat lunch. Lunch is an essential part of getting an education, so you can eat during the day, have the energy to continue learning.
Now, Mayor Stack, thank you for the answer, and credit, this may not be a question for you, but I want to give you the chance to respond. Has Union City considered getting a legal opinion so it can rely upon the state's action?
The state's action legal opinion given by the Attorney General's office in the state of New Jersey. That's who represents the state.
Okay, so am I correct in understanding that the Attorney General has actually issued an opinion?
The Attorney General's office reviews everything that the DOE and DCA do. You'd have to contact them and ask them if they have an opinion on it.
Okay, so the issue is you're relying upon the Attorney General's oversight.
My answer is what I just gave you.
Okay, thank you. Sheet 9.1, the issue, it was raised by, I think, Mr. Price about the Port Authority grant of $2.875 million. My question is whether this is a conditional grant, which is customary, at least in New York, where I do my work, where a grant is given but there are strings attached, you can only use it for specified instances.
Well, they have a project that they identify.
Okay. Because at first glance, my thought is, and given that I have family members from the city, I thought when I saw this item, where does the Port Authority have property in Union City that there's a relationship, but if there's a grant involved, I would raise an issue with the Port Authority.
It's a feeder community. Weehawken's a feeder community, Union City would be a feeder community, Hoboken would be a feeder community, Jersey City would be one. I'm sure there's others along even the riverfront that are feeder communities. Fort Lee would be a feeder community.
Understand. Sheet 10 has a different line item. This is a separate issue. The library surplus calculation of $500,000 in the present year, $1.6 million in the prior year. Are these user fees that are basically being used as revenue from users of the library?
No, these are appropriations, monies that were appropriated for the library in years past that have gone unspent. So we're returning it to the taxpayers in the form of revenue.
Let's see. I have a question in sheet 11. There's a line item. Pull this up. It's item 4 on sheet 11, receipts from delinquent taxes realized. It's a big disparity. Realizing $617,000 in cash in the fiscal year 2012, but the current year, nothing's anticipated. Was there some sort of tax sale, discounting of delinquent accounts?
When we prepare our budget, we usually prepare it based on the unaudited financial statements.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequent to that, we have an audit prepared and we get that by June 30th. As of June 30th, there were some, you're correct, some tax lien items that represent the $600,000 fees that were collected. They were not reflected in the unaudited financials, but they were included in the annual audit. Also, as far as fiscal year 13, I neglected to put in a dollar amount. There's probably about $70,000 that we can anticipate in revenue in the current year, which will be adjusted when we amend our budget.
The amount was how much?
It's about $78,000.
70.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you. I'm going to call your attention next to sheet 15. There's a line item for a daycare center. My question here, there's an appropriation for $260,000 to a daycare center. Some people have asked me to question whether the daycare center is a center that is run by Katie Stack, and whether this is run by a nonprofit organization, in which case it appears that government or public funds are being used for private benefit, even though it's a nonprofit. Oftentimes there's plenty of profit in nonprofits. Can you divulge the identity of this daycare center?
Sure. Christine?
This is the Union City Daycare Program, and this expenditure is authorized through an agreement between the city and the interlocal. We do this each year and sanctioned by the state, by the DCA.
This goes back to sometime, Eric, probably, and you can't quote me to the year, but probably back to the late 70s, early 80s, an agreement that the city of Union City made with the Union City Daycare Program. I think the commissioner maybe at the time that formed the program may have been Manny Diaz. It started off as a very small program that has grown.
Is this a nonprofit, though? I mean, the Union City Daycare Program, is that a nonprofit?
Yes, it is a nonprofit.
Okay. Do you know if it's a federal 501c3 nonprofit or a state not-for-profit
I
corporation?
know they receive federal funds. I couldn't tell you. Christine, maybe you know.
I believe it's a 501c3, but you have to Oprah the agreement with them, and I'm sure it specifies in there. I don't have that with me.
Right, I understand. And as an alternative, we can always, the IRS actually may be able to provide that, so I'll spare you the trouble. Wanted to ask, there's an apparent increase in salary and wage items, which is a concern given the current state of the fiscal condition. An increase of $146,000. I'm referring to sheet 15E as an error. Pull this out. This is under the subheading recreation. It's line item 28-370-1.
Excuse me, all the programs and the management we have, the recreation programs and the beautiful new parks that we have in the city. We have a deputy director in the department. It's probably, Eric, if you looked in this county, you looked under commission form of government, probably one of the lowest line items. When you look at parks and public property, $104,000 for the director's office is extremely low. The commission doesn't even have a permanent secretary. Even if you go back to Public Works, $180,000 for the director's office, $134,000 for public safety. If you went all the way back and you looked at each one, $115,000 for revenue and finance. I'll match those numbers up against probably West New York and North Bergen. There's no mayoral aides in City Hall. There's no assistants in City Hall. It's a pretty bare bones operation. We're down several hundred employees. And the deputy director of parks is another one. We're very fortunate to have Mark Albies. He's extremely hardworking. If you added his salary up and the hours he puts in, he's in the office from 9 in the morning till about 11 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. Hurricane Sandy, he didn't go home.
Okay, thank you for your question,
Thank you.
for your answers.
Thank you very much.
I don't have it. The name is DIXXON.
Motion?
Motion by Mayor